Welcome to another Doggone Podcast here in the CEC studios. I'm your host, Mike the Mad Dog, and today we'd like to thank our friends at Weldon Financial for sponsoring this episode. The person sitting here next to me is a former ESPN Plus play-by-play commentator for Georgia Southern. He covers Georgia athletics. Is Mr. Chase Martaus. How are you, sir?
I'm good. How are you?
I am doing fine. Thank you for coming on this episode.
Thank you. I was pumped to be here.
Well, let's talk about what happened last week with Georgia and Austin Peay. Let's go ahead and get the elephant out of the room. They didn't look that great.
No, and there were a lot of things that went into it. Obviously, 3 or 4 hours before, you find out that the game's moving up for an hour. It was just a weird day. It was a weird day because, it started out pretty well with the weather, and then how long was the rain delay? A long time.
Long enough. Delay. I think Kirby said they took. It was about 2-hour rain delay. Mm-hmm. Kirby said they got out of their uniforms. They sat down for a second. They didn't know if they were going to call it or not, and they just let them relax for a little bit, let them calm down, and then they came out and said, "All right, let's get going." And you could see it on that first drive when they came back. It looked really good, which is what you wanted to see out of that, especially after they were well rested. But yeah, that rain delay was really crazy. I saw on social media, like, people were dancing in the monsoon. Some of the students were, some of the other people weren't, but it was pretty crazy.
I was surprised with how many people stayed during that rain delay. 'Cause I thought it would be almost completely empty. And to be honest with you, I was at the Marshall game. There were more people that stayed for that Austin Peay game than there were for that Marshall game, it felt like.
Do you think it's because Kirby said something during his press conference about that?
I don't know. It feels like he's got to say that at least once a year. I think he said it after the Mississippi State game or the Auburn game last year, and it just I don't think so. I don't know why, but I don't know. But like I said, it was just kind of a weird day for Georgia. I think the defense looked really good. I think Georgia has two middle linebackers in Raylan Wilson and C.J. Allen, of course, preseason All-American that so good at stopping the run, getting guys behind the line. This pass rush is one through the first two games that I've seen that looks some of the best, at least since that 2021 defense. And so I'm really excited about that. The offense, look, there's a little bit to be desired, obviously. And to be honest, I don't think that it's necessarily the talent. I just think there are still question marks. I'm still asking myself questions after those two games going into this Tennessee game.
All right, we'll get into that in just a second. But before that, let's talk about the Michigan-Oklahoma game. Now, that was the big game of Week 2. There wasn't a lot of exciting stuff happening in Week 2, but that game to me was very exciting. I picked Oklahoma to win, and I was right. Mm-hmm. But, what did you think about how they seem to have bounced back, Oklahoma have, from last season, the way they have, especially offensively?
They did. It was really great to see. I was really impressed with how they played. I think John Mateer, is that his name?
Yes, Mateer.
270 yards. They seem to be in rhythm offensively, and they didn't run the ball very much. Running back that got the most carries was Torrey Blaylock. He had 9. But I think that the offense they were steady, I think is a good word.
Well, their head coach was in question for a long time there. Do you think the way they're playing this season that he's actually going to save his job?
I do. And you look at the way he's playing defense. That is his specialty with Brent Venables, obviously a longtime coordinator at Clemson.
Yeah.
But Bryce Underwood, first start for him on the road at Michigan. And it was not a good night for him. Obviously, you saw him fighting on the sideline or arguing on the sideline, not fighting, with a teammate. And 9 of 24. It wasn't a good night for him. Justice Haynes was really good for them though. 19 carries, averaged 6.6 yards per carry. I just think that the game plan seemed a little off for them. I think that they should have tried to stick with the run a little bit more. Some costly play from Bryce Underwood, but I just think that, like I said, Oklahoma really just got the best of them. Just not a good first start for Bryce Underwood.
Yeah, I think the home field advantage was really key for them. They were pumped. The crowd was pumped. They wanted Oklahoma to do as well as they did. They are hungry for that because of the way it was last season. And Oklahoma didn't have a very good schedule.
No.
To me, out of the new two teams that came in, Texas had way better schedule than Oklahoma. I don't know why. Nobody even talked about Oklahoma, but I think they're starting to talk about them now, which is a good thing because I'd like to see them, thrive in the SEC. If you're coming in, you might as well bring something to the table.
And it feels like they finally got a guy at quarterback that they can trust. I feel like they haven't had that since. They definitely didn't have that last year with Jackson Arnold, but they've had guys that have come in, been 5-star recruits, and it just hasn't worked out for them. Whether they gave up on guys too early or whether the guys gave up too early themselves and hit the transfer portal. But with this team, like you said, they really just they didn't get good luck with their schedule last year. And so having a guy like John Mateer this year, hopefully he can have a couple years in a row where they can have a consistent starter.
Well, let's talk about, Ole Miss and Kentucky. There for a while, I know you said you didn't watch the game, but I did. There for a while, I thought Kentucky was completely going to win this game again. I figured Ole Miss was going to be on a revenge tour. Right. I figured, because he was talking about that's what he keyed up all game. He lost to them last year. They cost them a shot at the playoffs last year, losing to them the way they did. And Kentucky, I don't know if there's some kind of kryptonite with him and Kiffin, but Kentucky was ahead for a while, and it manages. Ole Miss manages to squeak by. I found that absolutely fascinating that they squeaked by. I figured they would dominate that game, especially the way Kentucky played the game prior to that.
It's weird with Kentucky because they start out every single year playing those teams like Toledo, and they kind of struggle with those guys. Don't necessarily beat them. Same thing with Georgia. They didn't win by as much as you thought they should have won. But they have these games in the SEC every year, especially at home. They are a different team at home than they are on the road. And so they have these games like Georgia last year where they were led by Brock Vandegrift. They had Georgia sweating the entire game. And so doing the same thing here with Ole Miss. I'm interested to see with Kentucky, though, for the rest of the year, how they can kind of build on that.
All right, well, let's talk about something that I know Florida fans are incredibly disappointed with, and that's the loss to USF. Is this going to be the end of the head coach? Is Billy Napier
we've been saying that since he's gotten there.
I know, but how many times can he have a losing season like this? They keep getting their hopes up and getting their hopes up. Napier's going to do it. He's time to get his players. I've heard this all before.
Yeah.
He has to get his own players. We're going to do all this. And then they come in there in the swamp and beat them. And it's insane that they would lose in the swamp like that. And Florida fans are absolutely livid. You're not supposed to lose to a team like that.
It's embarrassing at this point. And like I said, it feels like from the moment he got there, he didn't necessarily stand a chance. He wasn't their first choice, I'm sure. And, he has his quarterback now with DJ Lagway, and they still couldn't get it done. Just an incredibly disappointing night. And then the player, of course, who spat on USF. That just can't happen. I don't know what goes through a player's head where he thinks that he's going to get away with that.
That could also go back to coaching. It's just undisciplined. Is Napier completely lost the locker room?
It felt like that last year. It felt like that 2 years ago. These guys just don't seem to respect him.
Well, is Florida just, for lack of a better word, are they just don't have enough funds to get another coach? Are they tired of paying other coaches? Or what's the deal with them? How come they Napier seems like an albatross around their neck and they can't get rid of him?
It feels like they just don't want to pay it. That's what I really think, because that they have a great arena. They just got a new baseball stadium not too long ago. It feels like they just don't want to. Florida's going to have the money to compete with anybody. They have great facilities,
and it's a great recruiting state. If you want anybody who's fast, you go to Florida and get them.
You go to Florida. What are the four? You got Georgia, Florida, Texas, California. Those are the four that everybody says. And you've got two of those states right in your backyard.
Yeah,
you got South Georgia with all of the talent that they have.
Bed.
And you got the whole state of Florida. And that kids dream of playing at the University of Florida.
Yeah.
So there's no reason why you shouldn't be able to get these guys to come to Gainesville.
And it'll all go back to coaching for me. I just think, there's no reason why you're sitting in a hotbed of talent in that state and you can't get enough recruits to come in there and actually do something with it.
I think there's a difference between being a nice guy that is respected and being a nice guy to a fault. And I think Billy Napier is the nice guy to a fault.
I mean, I wouldn't doubt him being a good position coach.
Yeah.
But there's some people who just aren't very good head coaches. And it doesn't seem like they're going to achieve anything having Napier at the helm. It just doesn't to me.
And I watched him at Louisiana before, and he had a lot of success there, but there weren't a lot of convincing wins. That they weren't a dominant team while he was there. And so when he got the Florida job, there was nothing attractive about that hire, in my opinion. And so it just felt like he was a fifth, sixth choice. And
well,
it's showing right now because he's not. It's like he already didn't really stand a chance, and now he's getting no help, and now everybody's turning on him, and now he's getting asked, is he going to call plays, or is he going to give it away, or is he going to continue calling plays, or is he going to give it away? And he said in his press conference this week, there's no question about it, he's going to continue to call plays.
Well, that's his. If he wants to dig his own grave, it seems to be, and that seems to be what's happening.
And that's kind of what happens with a coach that's in that situation. Is if I know that I'm on the hot seat, if I know I'm going down my way.
Well, I'm going to look forward to that game in Jacksonville with Georgia. But speaking of Georgia, let's rewind something here. I need to know something. After what you've seen in the past 2 games that Georgia has played, is Gunner Stockton ready for SEC play? Is he ready for that SEC schedule?
I think he is. Look, it reminds me a lot of 2023 with Carson Beck. Because Carson Beck, for the first few games of 2023, I just kept saying, just let it rip. It felt like he just was a little bit hesitant at first, didn't really want to take the deep shots, didn't want to take a risk throwing the ball downfield, and it feels kind of that same way with Gunner. But at the same time, I don't think that Mike Bobo's really given him that opportunity to take those risks. We've seen that he can throw the ball downfield. I mean, we saw it at the Notre Dame game. With the Notre Dame game in the Sugar Bowl, he had a great throw to Cash Jones. That was a long touchdown pass. He had a great throw to Dylan Bell. That was dropped. And so we've seen that he can throw the ball. I think in that Marshall game, he's got the legs, obviously. He had 2 rushing touchdowns. There is still a little bit to be desired, but at the same time, how many screen passes can you throw in
See, that's
game?
what I'm talking about. They just seem to be. This past game I saw, he left tight ends, he left wide receivers wide open in the back, and he just kept dumping it off. Short passes, or either running or try to get the yardage himself. And they were consistently. I mean, like when people are at home, like I was, sitting there screaming, that guy's wide open, why aren't you throwing it to him? And I don't know if he just wasn't told to throw it to him, because the offenses the past 2 games have been incredibly vanilla.
Right.
They have been
but that's kind of expected too.
That's true, but at the same time, you would think they would show at least a couple of plays to show that he can do it. I don't want to wait till he gets up there in Knoxville and throws an interception because he's not used to throwing it deep. We don't need anything like that, and that's a big fear in Georgia fans' minds. Is he going to be able to make completions up there? Are they going to catch the ball? There are people who are wide open. Is he going to be able to hit them? Is he seeing the entire field? That's what I'm worried about too.
The crazy thing, though, for me is Gunner's not really my number one concern with this Georgia offense right now. My number one concern is, how is the offensive line going to play? Last week I believe Ernest Green was out. And so I think the best offensive lineman we have is Morris, or Elijah Green. I think it was Elijah.
Yeah.
Elijah Green is moved to left guard for last Saturday's game. Right tackle, I think that he's the best one that they've got. But with Monroe Freeling at left tackle, I'm a little bit concerned with him. Drew Bobo's been pretty good at center. But how many times did Georgia have the ball at the 1-yard line right before the half?
Oh, that
how
was
many plays?
I mean,
how do you let that happen? You are the University of Georgia. You have some of the best offensive line prospects, and it's one thing when it happens against Florida or against Auburn or Texas A&M, one of these teams. It's Austin Peay. You line up best on best And it's 1 yard.
I'm screaming.
And you have a running quarterback,
I'm screaming
too.
I'm screaming the entire time because they kept throwing it. I'm screaming the entire time. Just push them in. Ride the entire offensive line in. You're on like you said, you're on the 1 yard line. Why aren't you hiking the ball? You got to run it quarterback, and everybody just lean in. That could have been over and done with, and we could have had another 6 points.
And Kirby, what was one of the first things he said when he got to Georgia? I want to get better in the trenches. I want the biggest. I want the physicality and the composure of my offensive line, and I haven't seen that. I haven't seen that since Stacey Searles has been there as offensive line coach.
Oh, don't even get me started. I'm not a fan of his. I don't know why, we can't get a better offensive line coach. I wasn't thrilled about the hire when we got it, and it is what it is. I mean, I don't know why Kirby. I don't know if it's Mike Bobo's call or what the deal is. Yeah. But speaking of Bobo, like the center. And there was a few times where they jumped off sides. He should have hiked the ball. That's a free play.
Yeah.
I don't know why he didn't think about just hiking the ball right when they stepped off sides.
And he's a first-year starter. I think that comes with experience as well. But I think you got to be calling for that ball too if you're Gunner Stockton too as well. But I think that Drew Bobo is, like I said, he's done well with the offense, leading the offensive line. He's done well at center. Made some really good blocks in the run game for Georgia as well. And I just want Georgia to get healthy. And with these games against Marshall, against Austin Peay, I don't care if the final score is 70-3. Score your 40 points, get out of there with no injuries. That's what I want, and I respect Kirby for doing that as well.
Oh yeah. He said he plays more players. He tries to get as many players in there because if somebody gets hurt, what's he going to do? He's got to say you have to experience playing the game. Well, what do you think about the backup quarterback Ryan Puglisi?
I really liked what I saw from him in that Marshall game. I think his arm. I mean, he was firing.
He's got a rocket.
Yeah.
I mean, like, the way he was cutting loose and throwing, I haven't seen a Georgia quarterback with that kind of arm since Stafford.
My thing right now is, yes, he's got that big arm, but you've got to be able to control it a little bit more because, Jacob Eason had a big arm when he first got to Georgia. And overthrowing guys, putting too much zip on the throw. I think we've seen that from Puglisi a little bit in that Marshall game, and I think that can be an easy fix for him. I hope so.
He has to have experience, though.
Exactly.
You need to give him some more playing time, and I was hoping that was going to happen with Austin Peay, and then they couldn't punch it in, and the rain delay, which was 2 hours. There's so many things that happened. Like you said, it was a very weird day. I just wanted them to get out of there. Because there's some games, no matter, they look incredibly ugly, and you're just like, you're not going to get it together this Saturday. Just give up.
Exactly.
Just go ahead, take the win, and leave.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm hoping that what are you thinking the defense is going to do up in Knoxville? Do you think they're going to be able? Do you think they could possibly put pressure on the quarterback and maybe pick him off a few times?
I think that Georgia these first 2 games they have shown that that's been the struggle for the past. Since Kirby's been there, that's been the number one concern is how's this pass rush going to be. They've always been very good in the secondary. They've always developed really well in the secondary. You've seen a number of 3 stars that go on and become first, second round picks in the draft. But this pass rush has been kind of the concern for some of these Kirby Smart teams in the big games the past few years. And so I think but I think this is one of the best, and it's a very deep room as well. And so I think that look, Josh Heupel's offense, they're going to get the ball out quick. That's what they do. They always get the ball out quick. They get to the line very quickly. Is this a game that Georgia's going to have 5 sacks? I don't think so, but that's not a bad thing. That doesn't mean they can't get to the quarterback. That doesn't mean that, he won't feel pressure in this game. Because we saw it with Hendon Hooker a couple years ago, they can get to the quarterback.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I just think that it's kind of a different situation this time. But I think that they'll be able to get enough pressure in this game to keep him rattled.
Yeah, I mean, Kirby always says that, he wants to put pressure on the quarterback. He doesn't necessarily care about sacks. But there again, when they start sacking the quarterback a lot, you don't see anybody quite as excited as Kirby on the sidelines, though. I mean, regardless of what he says, when they start sacking the quarterback, he is very excited. He's very pumped up. And the crowd gets pumped up. And the main thing, I have said this time and time again, when you're in Neyland Stadium, have you ever been up there? You ever been in Neyland Stadium?
That's a bucket list, but it's not.
Okay, I've been there. I've been to a game, and let me tell you, when those people get excited, you can feel the earth shake. It's unreal. You can't hear yourself. You can't talk to the person next to you. You're better off just writing it down and showing it to them, because literally you cannot hear anything. So if they're gonna stay in the game, it's gonna be definitely difficult to to be able to hear or do anything. If you keep them in the game and that crowd stays there, you have to jump on them early and get them heading to the exits during halftime, or else it's going to be a long night for Georgia.
Agreed. I mean, that's the biggest key for Georgia is, can they get off to a fast start? Can Glenn Schumann, if they get that first touchdown, can he make the adjustments? Can Mike Bobo make the adjustments? Can Gunner Stockton, stay the course? And so I think that's the biggest thing. Georgia, I think the only way that they can lose this game is if they beat themselves. I think that's the number one. That's the main thing that they've done in the past couple years. They weren't worse than Ole Miss last year. They weren't worse than Notre Dame even. But when they when they fumble the ball, when Nate Frazier's fumbling the ball, when Dylan Bell is fumbling the ball, that's when things kind of go downhill. That's when, not the guys are turning on each other, but that's when the wind is taken out of the sail.
Well, I mean, in the beginning of this Austin Peay game, we fumbled.
Right.
We fumbled, and then what is it? London Humphreys fumbled. Like we had 2 turnovers that shouldn't have happened against Austin Peay. We can't have that during SEC play. Those teams will make you pay for it. Like we were able to stop Austin Peay. I think we held one of them to a kick or something. Other teams will make you pay for it, especially if you give them a short field. You can't turn the ball over. But I do like the fact that when Nate Frazier did turn the ball over, Kirby just kept giving it to him. Like he didn't take him out. He didn't make him feel bad. He kept feeding him the rock and kept making him run the ball and saying, "Look, we still believe in you. You made a mistake. Let's see how he dusts himself off and move on." It's kind of like a pitcher who goes out there and throws a pitch and then they hit a home run. Keep him out there for a while. Let's see what he does. Let's see how he reacts.
I want to see Georgia using more of the trio. I feel like we've seen a lot of Nate Frazier. We haven't seen a lot of Phillips, though. And every time he's touched the ball, he's quick. He can get outside. He's good. He was the Illinois transfer.
Yeah.
And I want to see more of him. When Georgia's offense is at its best, there is more than one running back that is carrying the load.
Do you think running the ball will be a key to winning this game in Knoxville?
Of course.
Yeah.
I think it's Georgia's bread and butter. That's what they're best at. You have a running quarterback. Gunner can throw the ball, but he is best with his legs. He can escape the pocket.
He better start sliding, especially when he's in the SEC play, because he did that a couple of times against Marshall, which I was happy to see.
Right.
But he better really get down, because those SEC linebackers are going to be coming for him, especially when they see him out in the open.
Yeah.
So that's going to be an issue. So besides that, what are we looking at next week? We're looking at Georgia Tech and
Georgia Tech, Clemson.
Oh yeah. Now see, Clemson struggled against Troy. That was a big problem. Do you think Georgia Tech playing at home has a chance to beat Clemson in this game?
Yes, they are at home, but it's going to be 65% Clemson fans there. That's
the way it always is.
That's
it's
just how it is.
The same way when Georgia comes in.
Look, you looked at the way it was for their Gardner-Webb game. It was basically completely empty. And when Georgia goes there, it's 75% Georgia fans. They're gonna be on a silent count, even though it's at home.
Yeah.
So I have never been a Cade Klubnik guy. I never understood why he was looked at as one of the top quarterback prospects. I never understood why he was a Heisman contender coming into the year. He hasn't shown anything when he's at Clemson, and he hasn't shown anything the first 2 games. The spotlight was on him at home against LSU a couple weeks ago. He wasn't good. That Clemson offense was not good. And they struggled last week against Troy. This Georgia Tech team, Georgia fans, the UGA can tell you, this team will sneak up on you.
Yeah.
Haynes King is very good. And Haynes King can, it'll look like he's going to get a gain of 2. He's going to fall forward and get 5 more yards.
We couldn't stop him last year. We had to go to 8 overtimes. That was insanity.
Exactly. So Brent Key has done an incredible job with this Georgia Tech team. He is, he's made these games to where they're going to be interesting again.
Yeah.
And I never want to lose to Georgia Tech.
No,
but I would like for these games to be a little bit more. I want to get up for this Georgia Tech game. I want people to say, oh, it's the Georgia Tech game, clean old-fashioned hate. But it's almost forgotten. It's almost like, okay, let's just get this one over with, get to the SEC championship. That's how it's been past 6 or 7 years.
Yeah, I find it interesting because you think about now when they go to Jacksonville, with Florida being kind of down the way they are, nobody thinks the Florida-Georgia rivalry being that great. Like it's not everybody's like, we got to go down there now. They're bad. We should win this ball game. It used to be exciting. It used to be a big deal for those rivalry games. Now I'm a little worried about going to Auburn, because Auburn looked pretty good. Auburn could be a sneaky good game. We're going to go there, which I'm convinced that place is built on an ancient Indian burial ground. I have no idea that anything can happen in that stadium. It is like voodoo in that place. I've never seen stranger things happen in there. I've been to that stadium too. Have you ever been to that one?
I have. I was 2017.
Yeah, that
game to forget.
Yeah, that place is built to me like a Roman Coliseum. It's all straight up,
right?
And it's very cool. And even though I have no love for Auburn whatsoever, but it's a very cool build. Whoever designed it, it's very cool. And the eagle coming down, that's all good. The traditional things like that are very good, and every team should have them. But no, I don't. That's a scary place to play. Every time we go in there, I'm nervous. It doesn't matter how bad Auburn is, just crazy scary. But anyway, so we're looking at Georgia Tech and Clemson being the big game. Besides the Tennessee, now the Tennessee game, that's going to be that's where they're going to have the college game day, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's always going to be big. That's got to be huge, which means they're going to be screaming Rocky Top at the top of their lungs the entire time while we're out there.
Well, they're going to regardless.
Like
the less we hear the band play that, the better.
Well, like I said, you ever go up there, you'll be sick of that song, trust me. They played it so much. And we got in a taxi to go back to the hotel room, and the taxi cab driver was playing it too. I think they did that on purpose just to mess with us. As soon as they saw we were all in Georgia. He was just like, hey, where are you guys going? And he turned it up, and I was like, you've got to be kidding me. And it was like some kind of crazy rap version. And I was like, how many versions of this song do you have? It's insane. Those fans to me are, well, everybody's obnoxious. They say Georgia fans are obnoxious because we bark. But those fans are just on a different level obnoxious. And I've never seen fans, when the team starts to do bad, they turn on each other. I've seen them in the stands get mad at each other and start yelling, you support them more. No, they're doing bad. Like, it's the craziest thing I've ever seen in my life. When you go up there, it is, when you said it's a bucket list, it is an experience that you should always go through because it's something else, trust me. So, anyway, let's see what else we got going on here. Clemson, Georgia. What about the Texas A&M, Florida and LSU? Now, do you think, after losing, do you think that Florida has a chance against LSU?
I don't.
No.
I think
close.
that it's going to be the Garrett Nussmeier show. It's Death Valley. It's at night, right? It's at night.
No. Yes. There's so many recipes for
this.
They don't. They're coming off a loss. They don't.
I don't think they have a chance. I don't. And
well, USF is going to Miami now. After that Florida win, do you think they got not that they have a chance, but you think they got a little momentum going in that Miami game?
I do, but at the same time, I think this Miami team is different when it comes to talent, and so I think they're going to be too much for USF.
Well, everything's going to be exciting, especially that Georgia-Tennessee game.
Right.
That's all eyes are going to be on that, especially during it being game day. I've got Georgia to win. I think they're favored by 6?
I think so.
6.5. I don't know how they figured that out, but I got them winning like 28-24. What do you think the score is going to be?
See, I think that's interesting because I think that if this, I don't think this would be a shootout, and now that's not necessarily a shootout. But I think if anything, this is going to be a low-scoring game.
It's going to be a defensive game.
I think it's a defensive game. I think this game is more likely to be 14-10 than it is 42-30.
Well, that's interesting. I didn't know. I wouldn't go quite that low, but
if
24-21 I could see.
I see 20-17 Georgia.
Interesting.
Yeah.
But you still see the Dogs on top.
Yes.
Is there any way, shape, or form besides beating themselves that you see Tennessee on top?
No, I don't. I still just look. This is one of those games where Kirby gets up for. I don't know if it's the fact that he lost every year to Tennessee while he was a student at Georgia while he was playing, but this is just one of those games. It's funny because it feels like that role of, Georgia's coming in with question marks, hasn't played great the first couple of weeks, and everybody's wondering if this is the time that Tennessee's finally going to do it. And Tennessee, it's the other way. They've looked really good. They beat a Syracuse team that lost a lot from last year's team. They beat whoever 60-something points last week. So it's just one of those things where they're coming in with different. Tennessee's got the momentum. Georgia coming in not as much, but I still see Georgia being on top in this game.
I do too, and good luck to the Dogs. I hope they come out on top.
Right.
We're never going to hear the end of it if they don't.
Exactly.
Well, listen, Chase, I want to thank you for coming on here today.
Thank you.
I appreciate you taking the time to drive all the way down here to be on the show, and it's a lot of fun. We want to thank Weldon Finance for sponsoring this podcast. This has been another Doggone podcast, and doggone it, I'm out.